artists playing a role in redefining or building on images, brands,
Yes.
or just improving life in communities?
Yes. Thanks. Good question, Colleen. Well, one of the things that is part of this is there's a lot of talk about attracting and keeping the creative class in cities. And the thing about that is that artists and creative people generally are really useful to communities if they're allowed to sort of think and act outside the box about things. One of the things we did in the Twin Cities a few weeks ago is, people started reading about we were the biking city, so we just started to close down whole streets and basically flipped the relationship so that bikes dominated and cars had to wait, And that was, an artist actually took that as an idea and sort of take back the streets for people and bikes. And, so I think part of it is to see the art community and the design community, because you've got, a burgeoning art community here. I know you've got the NDSU School of Architecture right in the downtown. Utilize all that creative energy and not be afraid to pilot some things. Try things out. One of the things that is about, that's sort of part of all this is to say, let's do some short-term experiments that are kind of cheap, easy to do, but get a lot of attention. And those are the kinds of things where the art community can really help, is to not see art as just something that's in the Plains Museum, but as something where you bring artists out in the street, they're working with communities, and they try things. Turning the city into a series of public art actions would be quite interesting, that had a purpose behind them. So they were, demonstrating something about Fargo or showing something that was possible in Fargo, I think would be fantastic. That in itself would probably get you national and international news. So, there's all sorts of things you can do. And actually, some of the ideas that are on this website, I definitely think you should try. I mean, they're amazing, some of these ideas. And just the fact that you're open and willing to try them at very low cost, just take a weekend or, just do it for one day, and maximum publicity are the ways in which you start to generate a buzz about Fargo. And that is the start, I think. So.
Tom, I appreciated the comments before it started on the discussion you and I had of oil supply and demand. Mm-hmm. I'm curious about your thoughts on how a city like Fargo, or the area Fargo-Moorhead, could embrace sort of the green revolution, if so, whether it's windmills, solar, whatnot. How does that all fit into your view of resiliency and so forth in a community? Well,
of course, the natural world is great at using solar and wind, right? I mean, look at that tree outside. I mean, that tree thrives on solar energy, right? So nature has figured out how to use all this free energy. We're paying way too much money for energy. I mean, it's ridiculous how much we pay for energy, and we're wrecking the world in the process. And, so the thing is that it's beyond now being a choice. This is no longer a political issue. This is just basic economics. The end of cheap oil is here. It's only going to get more expensive. And the thing about that is that it will force us to be more efficient and to utilize free energy. And because we'll still use oil. I had a grad student who did an experiment. She lived 100 days without oil in the city of Minneapolis. And one of the things that was really a revelation to me was that, we don't just use oil for our cars and to heat our houses. I mean, it is in everything. I mean, it's in our food, our clothing, everything is oil dependent. And as that supply-demand curve takes off, we are going to have to sort of rethink almost everything, where our food comes from, who makes our clothes, where we get things. And one of the things this is going to do is dramatically shrink the sort of supply chains. So that, I mean, it was interesting to me, some of the requests on the website is, well, you know, let's go get some more national big box retailers out at the edge. And I thought, well, you know, that would be fine if this was about 40 years ago maybe, but, you know, those days are over. I would argue that the real opportunity for Fargo is to do the kinds of things that Jane Jacobs wrote in 1970 in this interesting book called The Economy of Cities, where she predicted that, in fact, the cities of the future will be ones that replace global supplies with local industry. And so I think one of the things you should focus on is a kind of radical localism, is what can you do to you know, buy as local as possible in everything. I mean, that in itself, if Fargo was the first city that made a determination that you were only going to buy local, that in itself would brand you, because nobody else has tried that yet. There's all sorts of these opportunities that are out there. So, you know, the solar, wind, geothermal, all of that is part of, I think, of a larger strategy, is that we have to, in fact, see the region as a unit, and not be shipping things so far away, not be dependent on nationals, oil and global oil supplies. How do we generate as much of our power locally? How do we generate as much of our industry locally? How do we utilize our talent as much as possible? How do we keep the talent here? I mean, there was an idea on the website about, well, what if the city provided subsidized scholarships for students who lived here? And I thought, well, you know, what you should do is, if you did that, they have to come back and they have to contribute. They have to be a part of this community, so that you grow your talent locally and you keep them here by allowing young people to innovate. So they want to stay here, and they see an energy in this place. So I see the energy piece as part of a much bigger idea. But it'll come. It will be forced to utilize. I mean, why not use free energy? I mean, it's out there. Why do we build buildings where, you know, there's all that sunlight out there, and we have a solid roof, and we have all these lights on? I mean, why do we do this? This is crazy. You know, there's so much light out there, you know, so, you know, go figure. So these are the changes that are happening, you know. I find them exciting.
Questions?
Well, keep doing what you're doing. I think this series of talks is really great. And kudos to you for working on this, embarking on this process. And I'm really pleased to be a part of it.
Let's give Thomas Fisher another
thanks.
round of applause for an excellent presentation. Thank you for coming.